Yes, hello and welcome to the Yoga Crew podcast. I am Maria, your host for today, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about something very special. We're going to talk about the emotional qualities, so the emotional side of an online teacher training. So last week, if you're tuning into the last episode, we talk about the more structural things, and today we're just going to talk about feelings and emotions. Before we get into it, let me introduce you to my wonderful crew. Alessia calling from Italy.
Hi.
And Serene from London. And Stephanie from LA. So as you can see, if you haven't met us before, we actually met through our online teacher training. And from that time, we just decided to do this, just chat about things that we love and all things yoga. I'm sure we all agree, training was for sure demanding, not only in regards to the amount of workload that we had, working full time, but was also very demanding physically and mentally. And also, obviously, to highlight, that we did this through trying to survive through a pandemic. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of start with the first question to open up the conversation, and in regards to the emotional side of things. And I would like to ask you guys, how did you feel during the training, and most specifically, what kind of emotions kind of surface there? I'm sure we all cry, at some point, but I would love to hear from you, Stephanie. Tell me more.
Yeah, crying was a big part of my training, as well as sweating. And I feel like, and I read it somewhere that it says that water is really a good release for emotions. So it shows up in sweats and tears. So it makes a lot of sense to me that I would cry a lot and sweat a lot as well in training. And when we start getting more and more into the chest opening, heart opening sequences and drills, I started to notice that a lot of emotions would just come up and I would not be able to control it at all. And it would just fly. And there's one, I remember this very vividly, one of the classes towards the later portion of our training, we were doing back bends and we were getting up into wheel. And one day I was able to really straighten my arms and I heard a huge crack in my chest.
That's a true heart opener.
Isn't it? And then I just started crying, like I was bawling like crazy. I could not stop myself. I was so happy I was by myself in my room because nobody was seeing me. And I was like, I'm just gonna lay in Shavasana and just let the tears just come. Just let it out. Just let it go. So it was
It's actually amazing, right?
it's amazing. It's such a release. And I think that's one of the great benefits that I love about yoga is the emotional quality of it. It helps you release a lot of things that don't necessarily serve you anymore.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think, yoga is one of those practices that it helps you to get your emotions out in different ways. And I think I will ask you this later as well, because I'm very curious to know what's the pose that you feel it helps you release more emotions, or is that a specific pose that you take, and when you get to that pose, magic happens. So how about you, Serene? Like, I have another question prepared that I wanted to ask you, but which one is that pose? Like, are you clear on that? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, actually, I will be the common person that cry on pigeon pose. Actually, a bit boring because it just happens a lot, and especially during that training, that was pigeon straight away. A lot of tension and everything is stored into my hips, I think, and my neck. So so maybe Paschimottanasana, head to knee pose, head to toes. Yeah, that will be also really.
one thing that we always repeat, and I think kind of makes sense to, what you were saying, is that forward folds, right? Forward folds are that moment when you find some intimacy. How about you, Ale? You have any kind of pose that it gets you that feeling?
This is probably a little bit weird. I find myself in Garudasana, which is the eagle pose. And I don't know if this is because I'm like, kind of twisted with arms up and over, but it's like in that moment, I can find the perfect situation to find myself, to look into myself, to stop and kind of trying to think, okay, I'm here, and I can get lost into mindfulness. And, it's something that it's like a magic trip.
It's very interesting to hear, because when it's Garudasana, for those who are listening and don't know, it's the kind of eagle pose where we cross the legs and we cross the arms and we kind of play with different sides, right, of the body. Yes, for those who are watching, yes, that's a great point. So it's very interesting to see that, working with both sides of the body, it gives you that center. It's kind of strange, isn't it? So yeah, very, very, very excited to hear that. Thank you guys for sharing that. I don't know, I had to think about mine, but I will probably say wild thing. That is kind of my heart opener and kind of more emotional pose. But talking about, things that we learned during the course, and things that we experience, right? I would be interested to hear more about those qualities and anything that come to mind, like, for example, self-doubt, or perseverance, consistency, persuasion. So all of those are obviously feelings and things that we felt in terms of, for example, self-acceptance. I also like to kind of touch about durability. That is there any key quality that you discover on the teacher training, and anything that show up for you? And I would love to hear from you, Serene.
Well, this is a word that actually you, Maria, used the other day, and it resonates a lot with me. Awareness of my own body. And I am a person that is very hyperactive, usually, that likes to be always in constant movement. So what really helps me, and the key qualities like I am trying still to develop, and it also translates into my teaching, is to be looking inside and just, going into that stillness, and instead of, always looking for the movement. So now every time I go into my practice, whether it's for my personal one or when I'm teaching, I'm always trying to look from the inside, which is not always easy because we also want the pose to look a certain way, right?
Awareness, that's a great one. How about you, Ale?
Yeah, I would like to say that I love doing things and a lot of different things. So in the meantime, while I was doing the teacher training, I was doing a lot of different courses and things, and I felt a little bit overwhelmed. I was afraid of not being enough for my family and friends and, boyfriend. And I feel like I don't have time for doing everything. And I remember that I had this big commitment that I had to do all the lives and be present on all the lives. And I remember that I was afraid that this will have still time to my friends and family. And I remember that this was make me suffering so much. And I wasn't able to deal with this emotion. And at the end, I found that I'm just here and I just have to accept it. I just have to accept that sometimes I have to do something else. And it's okay, it's great. And people who is loving me will understand. But it's just like I need to be always perfect, to be always present, to be always here and there for everyone and everything. And these things has changed, of course. And now it's better for me to kind of not judge this kind of situation and to accept that I can't be everywhere with everyone.
So I guess that kind of ties to being present. Is that what you think? Like being in that moment, and you understand that that's where you're supposed to be. So I like that as well, and I take awareness and presence. And Steph, how about you? What do you find?
I find consistency really helps. I feel like the most efficient way to start unlocking all the emotions, all the layers of past feelings and whatnot, it's kind of like peeling onions. You have to be really consistent with your work to be able to peel out all the layers to get into the nitty-gritty, and that's the part that's really gonna get you crying. You have to have that consistency and the commitment and the perseverance to be able to peel.
I was just going to say that.
Right? So, because once you start peeling the onion, you're gonna start crying, and then the way to push through it is consistency and showing up for yourself, because yoga is such a practice that's just for yourself. Understanding that it's your practice, it's a self-discovery process, helps me push through the first couple of layers of crying emotions, and I really dig deep into it. And that's how I found the connection between body and mind, because once you clear out all the layers, you kind of realize, oh wait, that's the connection. That's what yoga means so much to me, because it helps me find that connection again, and makes me feel like, oh, I'm like a kid again. I know what I know as an adult, but I was able to kind of reconnect to the Steph at 3 years old. Everything is such a wonder, and everything is so interesting, and I'm curious about everything, and that's really the benefit of consistency and pushing through the tough spots.
Actually, I think that was a great point, because one of the things that I think, we people who practice yoga, but also, people who teach yoga, we talk about the true self, right? And that true self is, as you actually mentioned, like when you peel, actually, if you think about those layers of the onion, once you peel that, the center, that's who you are. Is that your true nature, is your essence, is we say the purusha, right? Like, is that really who you are? At the end of the day, that's who you really are. And yoga is the tool that actually shows you that. The reason why people do yoga is probably to remove anxiety or to release stress, right? It's very interesting to see how yoga is also a tool for relief of some of those emotions, right? And something so basic like a stress or anxiety. So I just wanted to also reflect on the fact that, think about when we are doing the training and things that we learn on the mat, how this has changed, or what did you find that has changed your approach to teaching, Serene?
Yeah, so I guess, and it comes back to what I was saying earlier, that's basically, of course, showing up to your students. So it means that showing up from your true self, right? Which is not easy. Sometimes it can be very abstract, but it's a continuous discovery, of course. But what I mean is that, of course, you need to give cues to your students, and it's not always easy to know exactly what they need, right? So the first thing that I'm taking from this practice, from this training, is that I am looking first again into my personal practice, and that's why I'm trying to be as consistent as I can with my practice, so I can deep down, dig and definitely find the tools to give them adequate, I will say, cues to my students. Because of course we all know everybody's different, and we're still new as teachers, and it's not, we haven't seen a lot already of bodies around us. To arrive to this point, the first thing, and I found this helpful, was definitely to experience this with my own body from the inside. And before the practice, that was not happening to me. Again, I keep saying that, but I think it's really important to stress that again. The fact that, and especially in the society now, we always look how we look, right? We always look from the outside. And most of the time we find the solution from the inside, right? So yeah, I will say that will be that.
Yeah, so I think what you mean is kind of teaching from experience, right? From first experience. And that's kind of, I think, what we always are told and how we can be honest with the students. So I do agree with that. How about you, Ale? Is there anything that you have learned and then you have started to kind of put into place maybe for your teaching or also even in your practice as well?
Yeah, because as you know, girls, I haven't started teach yet. I mean, not to all the people outside. I'm just teaching to my friends and family. So I guess I'm still on that path, on that journey to find who I am as a teacher. So at the beginning it was really difficult, even see myself as a teacher. Do you remember when we were used to record ourselves and our practices? It was so embarrassing for
Scary.
me. Yeah. It was kind of very difficult for me even to start play and look at myself teaching, because I was like, oh my God, I'm not able to do it. That is not me. That is someone else. And going forward with the teacher training, it was like this has completely changed. And actually, I kind of feel like I can teach. I'm teaching. And sometimes when I teach to my sister, for example, or my neighbors, and of course through Zoom, as you know, it's like that day by day, I'm feeling like, yeah, I can be a teacher. I am a teacher. And I have the skills and I also have the knowledge to be a teacher that probably before wasn't enough to see myself as a real teacher. So I think that this, you can call an emotion, like, you know, it's like emotional. And it's like that actually, while I'm saying it, it's like I'm getting the emotion from
Emotional.
it. Because,
it's like confidence, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
confidence.
that's true. It's like I'm realizing it right now, to be honest.
We're going to end up crying today.
Thank you, Maria.
No problem.
Thank you for the question.
No problem. And yeah, I just wanted to wrap up. I think we are almost there. But before that, I wanted to ask Steph, what will you say is the biggest learning emotionally that you take
To let
from
go.
the training?
To let go. Let go of what doesn't serve you anymore. I saw this meme the other day and just really resonated with me. It's just a hand holding a glass of water and says if you hold this glass of water for 5 seconds, you probably don't feel anything. For 50 seconds, nothing. But if you start holding it for like 5 minutes, you will start getting, you will start shaking. And if you hold this water for 5 hours, your arms are gonna go numb. And if you hold it for a longer period of time, your arms are gonna go bye-bye. You're not gonna feel your arms anymore. And that, again, it's the water analogy again. Water is your emotion, and you're holding on to it so dearly in your heart. Your heart is very tired. So if you have the water, if you have a glass of water in your hand, just drink it. Let it go through your body,
let it go.
out, right?
Just splash the water.
Just pass the water out. And I think that's that analogy. Also, I learned a lot about using analogy to kind of describe the entire emotion.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's Patrick. It's Patrick speaking.
Yeah.
Whenever I have
Patrick, if you're listening, it's so beautiful. That was such a
Welcome, y'all.
beautiful analogy, and I think you're completely right. I think whoever is listening today, if you practice yoga or if you don't, if you want to give it a go, because you're gonna learn a lot about yourself. You're gonna learn a lot, and how, like for example, how you face the world and how you deal with your own emotions. And this doesn't mean hide your emotions or don't talk about it. It means that you know from your true self how to do that, how to face that. And as I think Steph, you did a great kind of summary very quickly. Just let them go, use yoga as your tool, and I think that's gonna be super helpful. And with that said, I think that's gonna be it for today. Thank you guys so much for your input, and thank you also to all who are listening. But if you want to ask us a question or would like to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram at the Yoga Crew Podcast, or just let us know. We'd love to hear from you, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.